Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Diamond Discussion. I am your host, Demetrius Woods, and today we're going to be debunking what I believe to be some common hitting myths at the plate. So if you're ready to learn, then this is the episode for you. Let's get it started. Alright everybody, welcome to episode number 64, and as we get started I have to address the fit check for today. So usually this time of year for the last 6 years I've been part of the college softball signing day with my softball players through the Elite Diamond softball organization that I had back in Georgia. So that is why the hoodie is on today. Shout out to all my ladies who went on to play college ball and all my ladies who put on the Elite Diamonds uniform. Always much love for you guys. Also, have to address, or maybe even just put in a very, very minor um, plug or protest for John Schneider, the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. As you all know, I'm a diehard Boston Red Sox fan, so I am the world am I protesting on behalf of John Schneider. I just believe, in my humble assessment, that he was robbed of the Manager of the Year award. Okay, no disrespect to Stephen Vogt of the Cleveland Guardians. Obviously, they had to go on a tear just to even get into the postseason, and I thought they made some noise in the postseason as well. That AL Central race became a race because of their prowess down the stretch, and also in part due to the Detroit Tigers meltdown down the stretch of the AL Central race, right? So again, Stephen Vogt deserves the praise and the love. He got it last year as well. I'm not a back-to-back year manager of the year kind of guy unless a World Series or a pennant, a championship series or something is involved. I actually think that the Guardians did worse this year, per the metrics at least, than they did last year. However, not again all that. I just poo-poo them. I'm sorry. I could poo-poo them, but really, I'm lobbying for John Snyder and the Blue Jays here because let's be real, these guys just won a very tough American League East division for the first time in 10 years, right? 2015 was the first go in a long time, even at that. And so for them to be able to pull this off with the Yankees in that division, the Red Sox in that division, a very good Orioles organization in that division, dare I say, and also the Tampa Bay Rays, who have been good as well, right? So that's not an easy division to win, period. And they did it. And they also got to the World Series. And they were also 2 outs from winning the World Series. I know it's more of a regular season award, but shout out to the Blue Jays, man. They just you can't catch a break right now, honestly. And so I hope that those in the Blue Jays organization will recognize John Schneider and the job that he and his staff did this season because it was a hell of an effort, and I was very very impressed as a fan of baseball. I don't say that he has to do it again because that means that the Red Sox are gonna not do well because of it typically. So anyway, that is the fit check of why we're in the blue today. But let's get into the classroom session, if you will, here of episode number 64. And I am here to tell you guys that this is going to be a part one. This is going to be part one of debunking some hitting myths that I believe are out there right now. And the first one really is, in my opinion, the most misunderstood cue in baseball, and that is swinging down on the ball. Okay. Is that something you have to do in the game of baseball to be successful? That is a resounding no. Heavens no. Heck no. Whatever you want to say, the answer is no. If you've ever been told this, okay, erase it from your brain. Okay, because this is kind of an old school principle, if you will, and I'll tell you why it started here in just a second. But it's kind of lost its original meaning, way back when it started. Okay, and now you see hitters out there in the batting cages just kind of literally chopping wood, right? And there are times where I've even told my softball players, I'm like, listen, you got to get on top of the ball here. Like if you need a downward trajectory swing just to do it because we're trying to beat the ball into the ground, literally on purpose. That is the only reason we're doing it. That's a different story, okay? And you can see that more in the game of softball, I believe, than you do from a baseball standpoint, just because a hard chop into the ground like a slapper would in softball is incredibly advantageous. You don't see that in the game of baseball much. So I think the sport obviously dictates when it's necessary, but from a general standpoint, I just believe it's misinterpreted. Okay, it's a misinterpreted old school cue. It leads to pop ups as well. In addition to just that chopping, that motion, it leads to undercutting the ball, which kind of creates just a weird spin there, and it can, you're popping the ball up, right? And what I think about ultimately when I think about how does the swing need to unfold, right? We ultimately need to put that barrel on the same plane as the baseball, okay? Whether it's coming from an underhanded softball pitching motion or an overhanded off the mound baseball pitching motion, you need to match that upward trajectory of the ball, right? And so you've got to be able to get on the same plane as that ball to be able to create that backspin that you want. I know launch angle is such a huge deal, baseball and softball nowadays, but we don't really have to get into the launch angle part of things. Like just understand that where you meet the ball matters, and where the barrel is connecting with the ball matters as well. And if you want to, get on top of the ball, that's a different story. Okay, this is where it started though, right? Coaches said, "Hey, let's stay on top of the ball here. All right, we want to avoid pop-ups." Well, yes, you can do that. So if you think about the ball, right, it's obviously a round, spherical shape. All right, and if you were to divide it into three different portions, right, the top half, the middle portion, and the lower half of the ball, more often than not, if we connect with that top third of the ball, whether it be softball or baseball, then it's going to have a downward trajectory off of your bat. Okay, that's physics, right? So that's good because we want to avoid in that sense, or the part of the reason that was put into place from coaches is to avoid an uppercut like swing, right? We don't want to be uppercutting the ball and end up with weak pop-ups on the infield, or just mundane, can of corn fly ball outs, right? We don't want to do any of that, especially at a young age. That's not a good habit to develop. And I believe that staying on top of the ball early on can bode well for hitters, right? But you got to understand that staying on top of the ball and having a chopping swing, totally different things. It's about where you connect with the ball, less about the trajectory of your swing. Again, you want to be on the same plane as the ball. And if you notice, like the best hitters out there, okay, that's what they're doing. They're matching that plane. They're not chopping wood, if you will, right? We're not taking an axe to a tree, right? We are 100% meeting the ball, and if anything, we're staying behind the ball. And this is one of the things that I'll maybe address later in the show, or either next week. But what does it look like to ultimately stay behind the ball as much as we can, and ultimately cut the ball in half, right? We want to cut that ball in half and make sure that we are keyed in on where the contact is being made with the barrel, not about the barrel going from a kind of an upward to downward motion, such as the chop, right? I think one of the drills that you can do, I know some people are not very keen on T drills. Well, I am. I think that T drills are great. I think they're really good for fundamental hitting. And if you notice, people in college, people in the pros, they're still using the T's. So obviously it's working to some capacity. I'm being facetious. It's working to a lot, a big capacity, if you will, right? A large capacity, because at the end of the day, T drills do work. You just got to make sure that you're working them properly. And one of the drills that I say is that you can put that ball, that tee rather, on your front hip. Okay, so put the tee at the front of your stance and literally work on that barrel being behind the ball as much as possible. Okay, and you can actually work on this and not just be driving the ball to the pull side, whether you're a lefty or a righty. Okay, you can use this to drive the ball up the middle, pull side, inside out, and the ball to the opposite field is kind of tough with the ball on the front hip here. So I don't know that I'd recommend that with this tee drill, but at the very least, you're working the ball into the gap, the pull side gap. All right. Yeah. Or even up the middle. So working that helps a lot, in my opinion, getting that barrel behind the ball and then to and through the ball. Another one is it's kind of like the side toss slow motion drill, I would call it. I don't really know if, if there's actually a name for it, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to match the barrel to the pitch plane right here, okay? And so if you can kind of get that barrel to the plane of the pitch, do that in a slow motion setting, you'll really begin to train your brain and ultimately create a muscle memory that's required to get the barrel on the same plane of the ball. So that would be debunking hitting myth number one of is it something that we should do, right? Should we be chopping down on the ball? The answer is a resounding no. Make sure you're getting that barrel on the same plane of the ball as much as possible throughout your swing. And of course, this is off season time right now. So this is a great opportunity for us to work on some of these drills and to make sure that we're doing it properly so that when we do start our seasons back up after the winter time, we are well trained and ready to go. And so what I would say, some of you guys, I guess my call to action here will be to film your swing. Film your swing, tag the show in it, and maybe we'll take some time next week and maybe go through some of your swings and see who's got it, who doesn't, maybe where we need to work on some things and get a little bit of free coaching in, if you will. So we're gonna take a quick break, guys. When I come back, we're gonna go work on hitting myth number two and see where we can go from there. Be right back. Are you looking to make a difference with your investments? Impact Financial Alliance is here to help you align your financial goals with your values. Whether you're interested in sustainable, socially responsible, or impact investing, Impact Financial Alliance provides personalized advice to help you grow your wealth while creating positive change. Visit impactfinancialalliance.com today and start making an impact with your money. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. We're about to jump into hitting myth number two here. And listen, I'll tell you what, I was plagued by this one all throughout my Little League career. All right, and that is to keep your elbow high. All right, in your batting stance. All right, that is an absolute no-no. Get that out of your repertoire, okay? Because that is not the way to go. All right, and listen, here's the thing, guys. What that ultimately does to us is that kind of forces a lot of tension, all right, in our stance and our muscles and in our upper body specifically. Okay, what we really want to do right there is we want to kind of create like a natural slot down by the rib cages for that back elbow. All right, what that's going to do is that's going to kind of relax everything, keep everything a little bit more fluid there, and what we're trying to avoid by not okay keeping that elbow so high is that we want to avoid kind of an inefficient launch position. Okay, we don't really want to. It's not going to be suitable for you. If you look at guys, I mean, if you just watch the World Series at all, look at Mookie Betts. Look at Shohei Ohtani. Those guys really kind of have created a very nice, relaxed slot for that back elbow, and I think that's the way to go. When you're focused on connection more so than you're focused on the positioning of that elbow, then you're really going to have a lot better success throughout your swing. Okay. And one of those drills that I think that works really well for this is that connection ball drill where you put the ball, and maybe it's not like a medicine ball, but maybe it's like Even a kickball will work, or a soccer ball, or whatever, something, that size, if you will. And if you put that ball right under your arm, that ball should stay, all right, as your body's turning through your torso there, all right, and you're working everything around and getting the hip action going there. That ball should stay pretty much to the point of contact. Obviously, when you release, get out to extension, it should fall at that point. But anytime prior to that typically means that your elbow is getting detached from that rib cage, and that launch position kind of gets a little bit quirky there. So you want to avoid that. Another one that I think is really, really easy to use is the PVC pipe drill, where you just really feel that connection between, ultimately your torso and the rest of your body there, so that you feel good about that movement. Okay. So again, I'm giggling about this one specifically because all of my little league pictures, all right, pretty much from like 5 years old to like 10, it was elbow was high as it could be, and I guess up until middle school, I finally had a couple of coaches come alongside me and say, "Hey, listen, maybe try this," or whatever. Honestly, I can't even remember how I got rid of it, but once I know down the stretch for me in middle school and obviously into high school, I was a very fluid hitter, and a lot of that had to do with just getting rid of that high elbow action. So anyway, guys, that's number two. Let me know what you think about that, and also if that's a problem that you have, as I mentioned regarding myth number one, like send over your videos. I'll take a look at them. See if we can't highlight some of you guys on the next show, so that we can work this thing out together. Again, we're in the off season, so we really need to dial it in and make sure we're focused on getting these elbows a little bit lower, so that you guys can have better slots and ultimately have some better swings. I'll be right back here with myth number three here in just a second. Are you tired of your car looking less than showroom ready? Wish you had time for a deep clean? Super Suds Mobile Detailing is here to help. We come to you, saving you time and hassle. We use top quality products to give your vehicle that like new shine, inside and out. We specialize in professional, high-level detailing, paint correction, and coating. Give us a call today at 803-439-0342. We'll see you soon. If you're looking for one of the most experienced attorneys in the sports industry, look no further than Patrick Lawler at Lawler Sports Consulting. He has over 32 years as an attorney, and his experience in law and sports provides clients with numerous legal matters involving contracts, brand development, mortality, and more. He guides them through complex issues throughout the entire sports industry. If you've got an issue, he's your guy. Okay, myth number three is here, all right, and myth number three is to throw your hands at the ball. Okay, listen. I tell you what, that terminology, I don't even think I used it once throughout my coaching career. All right, and I think that when you think about that, it's almost just counterintuitive, really, because it creates a bit of a pushy swing, right? And it sounds simple, right? Just throw your hands at the ball. But I believe it's stealing your power, right? I mean, if you're trying to just put the ball in play, maybe that terminology works. But in general, I mean, with two strikes maybe. But from a general standpoint, right? We don't want to be throwing our hands at the ball, okay? We want to make sure that we're using our hips, we're using our torso with that, because when you kind of have that linear, just here whip, no lag type of a swing, that's going to do nothing for you. All right. You want your hips and your torso rotation to truly deliver that barrel to the point of contact, right? That's what's really going to propel your swing from a power standpoint. And when you think about it big picture wise, your hands are just a guide. They don't lead, right? They don't lead at all, actually. So when you think about that energy, right? I don't know, but I guess that's biochemical or biomechanical energy, right? You're using the ground. The ground leads to your hips. your hips lead to the torso there, right? You're using all of that. That goes to your hands, and then your barrel comes, right? All of that goes together. The hands do not guide everything first. So don't be out here throwing your hands at the ball. Okay. Make sure that we're focused. Seriously, focus. All right, guys. I'm pleading with you guys here. Focus on making sure that we're using that energy from the ground to create the power, to create the torque in our hips and our torso to get to and through the ball. Because that's what's really going to help you. And one of the drills I wrote here was use that one hand lag drill, right? Focus on that bottom hand so that we can really, create that energy from the ground to the hips to the torso to the hand and ultimately to the barrel. Also, you got the tilt and turn drill. Everybody knows the tilt and turn drill, kind of gives that bat sensor feedback. Okay, that's what you want. You want a lot of that and you want it often. Use that throughout the off season here a lot because that's really going to drive what you want. But no matter what they say out there, all right, please, 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 please make sure you're not just throwing your hands at the ball because that is not going to get you home. All right, that's going to get you a trip right back to the dugout pretty fast and ultimately out of the lineup. Don't throw your hands at the ball at all. That's taking away all of your power. Make sure we use those hips and we use that torso to get that barrel to the ball like we want it. All right, we're going to take one last break here, guys. Myth number 4 coming up. It's the last one of part 1 of today. Be right back. Is your heater or air conditioning acting up? Call WBAC Heating and Air for all your heating, cooling, and HVAC needs. Our experienced technicians provide fast, reliable service to keep your home comfortable year-round. Whether it's a new installation or routine maintenance, trust WBAC Heating and Air to get the job done right. Schedule your service today or give them a call at 478-238-9706. Breathe easy with WBAC Heating and Air. All right, guys, last one here, and it is, hey, get your foot down early. All right, you hear that? Okay, I've said it before. All right, hopefully my players knew what I meant when I was saying it. But listen, in general, all right, getting your foot down early is really no good. All right, for your timing. All right, I don't believe that at all. Okay, I've done it with certain players. If they were struggling, it's a very quick fix, in my opinion, to get that foot down early, just so that we can, maybe slow things down. Maybe you got a player that, her eyes are just not connected with the ball right now, right? So we're moving too much. We got a lot going on at the plate. So if we get that foot down early prior to the release of the pitch, maybe we can see the ball better, right? But again, that's a quick fix in the moment. Ultimately, it really disrupts our timing. And so in order, the better way to think about this, all right, is to be ready to launch on time. All right. So whether it's a person with a high leg kick, a simple leg kick, whatever the leg kick, whatever the tradition is for that hitter, let them be what they need to be, but ultimately teach them to launch on time. All right. That foot needs to land as the swing is ready to fire. All right. If that swing is not ready to fire, then that foot should not be landing yet. Okay. So, and again, I've watched it a couple of times. I watched a couple of batters actually, at my last tournament that I coached in. And there were a couple of players that we were throwing to that I noticed they were getting that foot down from a softball standpoint, like a solid half a second or a second prior to the pitch being released, which is so odd to me because if it's that early, then you're not moving anything except the hips, right? Which again, that's okay if it's a quick fix, right? But it looks like the entire team at one point was doing it, and so I noticed it. All right, listen, let's mix up speeds here because that hitter, excuse me, is really having to overcorrect on the changeup or the fastball or whatever the case may be, right? So we want to make sure that we're ready to fire when, okay, when that foot gets down. If that foot's down way too early, then that firing is going to be off. Therefore, ultimately, our timing is going to be off. So, when a coach says, get your foot down early, all right, ask them specifically what they mean by that, all right? Because ultimately, we want to make sure that we are getting that foot down when it's time to fire, when it's time to launch that barrel to the ball. Okay. So anyway, that is point number 4 of the day. All right. This is part 1. Part 2 is coming at you next week. Really excited to get into that one. I got like 4 or 5 more to jump in on that front. But listen, our thought you should know moment, guys, today. Sorry about my voice here. It is it's coming in the wake of just craziness in our country, right? Like there's always something crazy going on. But in the midst of just the government shutdown that we just had, that was that just wrapped up this week, thankfully, and then just things all over the place, right? There's always opportunities to look for humanity, and I came across this on social media. It was a picture of a pilot who had come out of the cockpit. Here, I'll just read it to you. Okay. It says, this Delta pilot needs a hug. It's after 10 p.m. at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, the busiest in the world. Everyone is tired and wants to get home. Then the captain does something I've never seen. He steps out of the cockpit, grabs the mic, and says, in 30 years of flying, I have never felt more unsure about the world. The government shutdown is affecting air traffic control operations that decide what flies in and what flies out. There are delays, cancellations, and missing passenger on this flight trying to get home. The chaos tonight I have not seen since post 9/11. He pauses and looks around. I will stay at this gate until they make it on board, but if anyone wants to leave them behind, speak up. Silence. No one moved. He nodded. That's what I thought. He added, we do not know when we will be cleared for takeoff, but I promise I will get you home safely. You could hear a pin drop, and in that moment, the pilot restored faith in humanity. Proof that empathy still exists even as politicians seek to divide us. A Delta pilot gave a TED Talk worthy of a Harvard Business School case study. Leadership is not about titles or commands. It is about empathy and putting people before schedules. If more leaders acted like this pilot, the world would be a better place. The question is, would you have waited or would you have left? That's where I'm going to leave you guys today. All right. Are you helping out humanity? Are you restoring faith in it? Or are you part of the problem? Hopefully, you're making the world around you a better place by existing. So, we're going to wrap this show up like we always do. And if you notice, I've wrapped up every episode, including this one, number 64. All 64 episodes to date. With this, please let everything you do be done in love. Because at the end of the day, that is really what makes this world go round. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.